Desert Oracle Radio, the voice of the desert.
Night has fallen on the desert. Another hot August night. I've been up at the Sacred Grove for a while, surveying the pinyons, conversing with the blue crows, smelling the sagebrush, investigating the boulder spires, tracking the evidence of several recent thunderstorms. The mallow is coming up nicely. There are a few silky yellow saffron blooms on the old man cactus. The only cactus around up there, really. They're about the height of a small rabbit and nearly as furry. Best not to touch, though. They look a lot cozier than they are, and there's nothing more overrated than cozy. I got some emails about this tourist whose feet got burnt up pretty bad from losing his flip-flops in the sand dunes of Death Valley and having to get back barefoot in the midsummer Mojave heat wave in the hottest place on earth. Somebody sends me a link to this news story and says you ought to roast this tourist. And I'm thinking, well, he's already pretty well roasted. I'm sure he's not proud about it. It can be rough out there, part of the great circle of life. And death, and whatever else, the sum of it all. Every spring, which can last a good long time in the high desert, although it's totally forgotten by July, I get acquainted with a new batch of creatures. The same dove couple returns no later than the 1st of March, usually mid-February, and another half-dozen mourning doves are brought into this world. The rock squirrels and the Mojave cottontails usually have a trio each that makes it to adulthood. And be you lizard or fledgling, somebody dies when the roadrunner comes round, when the bobcat comes by night. And so I returned from the mountains to find some tufts of rabbit fur on the patio and one less bunny at the watering bowl. I've gone up to the eastern Sierra to escape that kind of heat, as humans have long done when the weather turns. One of many reasons California was seen as a Garden of Eden. When English pirates such as Francis Drake first got a look at it, and some 2 centuries later when the Spaniards finally headed up from Mexico. Because the coastal natives had such an easy life of abundance, living in the year-round abundance and perfect climate of the California shorelands, the wetlands, and the bays. The ocean provided every delicacy of the sea, the rivers brought fresh water, the native oaks produced plentiful acorns, ample game, large and small, for hunting, and the population was small enough that families and tribes tended to have plenty of space and the ability to up and move whenever it felt right. like the periodic burning of their Thule hut villages and settling at another site on the creek or river not far away. For those who lived inland, people went up higher in the summer months, like the Timbisha people going up to the pinyon forest of the Panamint in the summertime. These days, it seems only the very wealthy and the upper-income work-from-home con artists routinely change their geography when the weather turns. Nobody else can afford it. Beyond a week or a long weekend here and there, now and then, straight to the credit card balance.
Desert Oracle Radio.
The earth itself is wholly a sacred garden, an unlikely paradise in the cold, vast expanse of space and star. The earth is alive, and we are a living part of it, a crucial part of this planet's past, present, and future destiny. Sacred time returns on schedule year after year, season after season. The ancient festivals marking the wheel of the year are holy moments of time out of sync. These times remind us that our time is fleeting and long time goes onward, ever onward. We have advanced and evolved at a rate we can only consider supernatural compared to a world of creatures who've remained much as they were, much as they are. We delight in a raven using an object as a tool by the affection of a good dog, by the complexities of biology and status and the lives of insects, birds, and especially our primate cousins. Yet, we know something is very different in our own kind. A switch turned on during this flash of time, a time measured in thousands of years on a planet whose life is measured in billions of years. And in this accelerated time, through the inventions of astrology and agriculture, magic and reason, science and art, supercomputers and ritual psychedelics, bird and beast remain mostly static during our outrageous million-year journey from apes on the Serengeti to astronauts stuck on the space station. Because if it's Boeing, they're not going. But there are various other spaceships available for the job, thank God. This is from a science article in the Guardian newspaper from 2004. Professor Lon's team examined the DNA of 214 genes involved in brain development in humans, monkeys, rats, and mice. By comparing mutations that had no effect on the function of the genes with those mutations that did, they came up with a measure of the pressure of natural selection on those genes. The scientists found that the human brain's genes had gone through an intense amount of evolution in a short amount of time, a process that far outstripped the evolution of the genes of other animals. Quote, "We've proven that there is a big distinction," Professor Lawn said. Human evolution is, in fact, a privileged process because it involves a large number of mutations in a large number of genes. To accomplish so much in so little evolutionary time requires a selective process that is perhaps categorically different from the typical processes of acquiring new biological traits. Perhaps. This is Desert Oracle Radio, a production of... What are we calling it tonight? This is a production of the Santa Minerva Broadcast Network. Our motto is a trademark of the Order of Santa Minerva and also will not be announced over the air as it remains secret at this time. Soundscapes on this radio program are by Red, Blue, Black, Silver. As we are propagandists for wild nature and for human spiritual experience within or at least near to wild nature, much of the material on this broadcast regards the long history and even longer prehistory of people honoring certain places in the wilderness as the natural temples of our beautiful planet, our earthly paradise. But much of that history is not very far off at all. And some of it is so recent as to be in our present. Outdoor extravaganzas such as Burning Man are deliberate in their connection to ancient pagan rites and great seasonal festivals of the world's religions, held in natural settings that are striking, unforgettable. Even the big corporate events like Coachella and the other 100 rapidly fading music festivals benefit from society's great need for such spectacles under the sun and stars. Even if they offer no spiritual nourishment beyond $20 plastic cups of beer and lip-sync performances by half-alive media brands. But even those used to be a little heavier. William S. Burroughs described a mid-1970s arena concert by Led Zeppelin as a rite involving the evocation and transmutation of energy that bears some resemblance to the trance music found in Morocco, which is magical in origin and purpose. That is concerned with the evocation and control of spiritual forces, evoking the great god Pan, the god of panic, representing the real magical forces that sweep away the spurious. For the big events, when everybody comes from near and far, you need a natural setting, a rustic setting that's a reasonable distance from the town and the city. The Woodstock Festival was a couple of hours from New York City and a bunch of other big cities, unless you got stuck in traffic for a day or two trying to get there. The Great Stone Circles of England are reached by ancient chalky ridgeways, and Red Rocks is just west of Denver. But many of us require a more intimate setting where the majesty of the natural environment is the headliner. And we are part of it, but do not overwhelm it. Think of a herd of pronghorns moving across a vast landscape of the Mountain West, or shorebirds dotting a great wetland, or a flock of pinion jays circling the conifer forest. In recent decades, there has been a subcultural appetite for a kind of historic outdoor role-playing amongst fans of the television shows about Vikings and Thrones and whatnot, which is perfectly fine if that's what they enjoy, if that's what you enjoy. And for the past 100 years or so, Eastern religion has established permanent homes in the Americas and Western Europe, such as the late Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh's Deer Park and Plum Village monasteries. And yoga retreats, even if they're held on the side of a busy state highway full of military cargo trucks and such, they've long attracted weekenders who long for something beyond strip mall Pilates studios. But what about the mainstream Americans of the last century, that time of middle-class prosperity and can-do American know-how that was the envy of the world? Well, I came across some accounts of the most mainstream demographic of that era, the community leaders and local businessmen of yore, enthusiastically engaging in annual wilderness rituals in direct emulation of the ancients worshiping in the high places. The natural cathedrals, the rocky outcrop hilltops, sacred forests, and wild deserts, where Druid and Thracian and Canaanite and Lakota solemnly perform their religious offices under the charging sky. These Americans and their 20th century wilderness rituals, they were the Freemasons, members of a once ubiquitous fraternal order with beautifully ornate temples in the very heart of every American town and city. And here I read from an old article by Brother Keith Arrington, a longtime librarian for the Grand Lodge of Iowa. Brother Arrington writes, "Tradition has it that in ancient times, Masons met on the highest hill and in the lowest vales to secure privacy. That tradition alone has been sufficient to stir the imaginations of modern Masons, with the result being that Masonic meetings have been held in many strange and weird places, as one who frowned upon the practice put it. The laws and statutes of the Lodge of Aberdeen of 1670 state that we ordain that no lodge be holden within a dwelling house, whether is people living in it, but in the open fields, except it be ill weather. Freemasons assembled at Crochen Tor in the county of Devon, England in the 17th century This was a rocky hill rising to a height of 1,300 feet, studded with granite boulders, and was a wild and remote spot, 10 miles from any town. The spot was a natural amphitheater where boulders on the rising sides provided seats for 100 or more, while a table was hewn from the moorstone. Historic Mammoth Cave, 135 feet below Kentucky's surface, has been the setting for lodge meetings, as have the Carlsbad Caverns of New Mexico, at a depth of 750 feet. Since the temperature in the caverns is 56 degrees, those attending have been urged to dress warmly. In Death Valley, 3rd degrees have been conferred under the stars on the sun-baked floor of the Devil's Golf Course near Furnace Creek. On one occasion, 40 years ago, all furniture for the lodge was transported over 100 miles to the site, which was surrounded by such rough salt fields that any approach, except by the road which was fully tiled, was virtually impossible. One observer found most impressive the door from the preparation room, which had been hauled in and set up in the northwest corner of the lodge. He commented, "When that door was opened, it opened to the universe." According to Mackey's Encyclopedia of Freemasonry, its religion is that general one of nature and primitive revelation, handed down to us from some ancient and patriarchal priesthood in which all men may agree and in which no men can differ. And here are a couple of common English language phrases and terms that come from the rituals and catechism of the Freemasons. On the Square is used in the Bob Dylan song. Which song is that? When he says, "I eat when I'm hungry, drink when I'm dry, live my life on the square," it's on Time Out of Mind. In masonry, as in carpentry or any such building trade, the right-angled tool called the square is used for exactly that purpose, to make sure your corners and edges are square, that they line up properly. Freemasons use the phrase "on the square" to refer to a fellow Mason. Ronald Sinclair's all right, he's on the square. And then it became a general phrase and general usage. Likewise, on the level is a judgment of character, your own or someone else's, usually someone else's, based on the tradesman's use of the tool known as a level. These days, even a $5 plastic level from the stolen tools guy at the swamp meet contains one or more glass vials filled with an amber alcohol and an air bubble. When that bubble is in the center, your surface is level. Good job. In Leonard Cohen's song, "On the Level," he means let's keep it honest, let's keep it above ground, etc. Keep it on the level. If you've been blackballed, that means you've been excluded, banned, canceled, and you'll never know exactly who or why did you like that. This comes from the secret ballot of the Freemasons when deciding whether to admit someone to the Brotherhood. Each member of the lodge votes by choosing a white or black marble or pearl or whatever as a yes or no. Only takes a single no vote and you're blackballed. Ever been hoodwinked? Well, this comes from the hood or blindfold initiates must wear during the ceremony admitting them to the lodge. like in Romeo and Juliet when Benvolio says to Romeo, "We'll have no Cupid hoodwinked with a scarf." Except that play was publicly performed and published many years before the 1717 supposed coming out of the Freemasons in London. Now, if you're a traveling man, like in the Ricky Nelson song, maybe you've got a girl in every town around the world, or a guy, or a rental property, ideally. Maybe you're on the run. But in Freemasonry, to be asked if you're a traveling man is asking if you're a Freemason. This goes back to the medieval days when the craft was truly secret, and the preferred answer was that you were indeed a traveler, and specifically traveling from west to the east, toward the light. From Amboy to Isaacs, broadcasting across the great Mojave Wilderness and around the world through the magic of podcasting, this is Desert Oracle Radio, soundscapes by Red, Blue, Black, Silver. Thanks to our supporters who keep the show going at patreon.com, Desert Oracle. Although, if you want to join that elect group, don't do it off your iPhone, because now the iPhone keeps 30% of everything if you try to do it through the Patreon app, I guess. So do it from a web browser on your computer, or, who knows? All the social security numbers and our names and addresses and everything, they're out. They're loose on the internet, so maybe we won't have to do any of this stuff anymore, and you can just come by the Sacred Grove and throw a couple of coins in the sacred spring. Thank you for listening, and good night from the voice of the desert.